Let's have a look at the qualifying times, and well, Ryan Smith about 0.4 of a second quicker in qualifying than David Jenkins. This is the second fastest time for each driver. So Bradley Smith, who was on the front row earlier on, now back on row 3 behind the Olivers. We saw how quick Michael Oliver was off the line in race 1. Stephen Powell 6th on the grid. A bit of a subdued run to 8th place in the first race. Craig Reed, the only one of the Reed brothers here this weekend. Simon absent with business commitments. So Craig Reed in the only Reed Freight Iveco out there, alongside John Bowler in his MAN. New to Division 1 this year, moved up from Division 2 last season. Richard Collett and Simon Faulkner on row 5, MAN and Iveco. On row 6 we should have seen Simon Cole, but I don't think he's there again, and Tom O'Rourke is there, having repaired the problems with his MAN from race. Then there's a gap, and we've got the Division 2 runners, Paul Rivets, the number 22, alongside Adam Bint, the championship leader in number 5. Then Craig Evans, number 10, 6 of John Powell. Gentleman Jim Bennett in the Seddon Atkinson. And Neil Yates in the DAF. Now, I did say at the last meeting that Jim Bennett's Seddon Atkinson were the oldest truck on the grid. In fact, it's not. John Powell's chassis is slightly older. So they're up to the grid then, they'll get ready for the rolling start. There is a grid walk that takes place after the lunch break tomorrow ahead of truck race number 4 of the weekend, so I'm sure Pointy is going to be down there to collar a few people for interviews at that one. Can anything stop Flying Ryan Smith? He's had 6 wins so far this year. Had problems in a couple of races at Pembrey though. David Jenkins, desperate for his first win of the season in his MAN. Michael Oliver's had 1 win. Let's thank all the other partners of the championship, as well as TRP Parts, Road Transport Media, coverage in Truck and Driver magazine, Commercial Motor Transport News as well. MV Commercial as well, Tom O'Rourke's business, supplier of new and used trucks for sale. Vision Track Vehicle Telematics, Freyhouse Trailers, Total Care Vehicle Lift and Testing Equipment, GT Tyres. I know Martin Gibson is still doing a lot of testing and development work for GT Tyres. I've seen him race, I believe, the MAN used by Michael Oliver here in the past, but he's concentrating on racing cars these days. Also MAN Truck and Bus and the Dines Motor Group are the other partners of the championship. We thank them all for their support. Stuart Oliver, a couple of wins at Brands Hatch this year in his Volvo, but he left Pembrey winless, had some problems in the 3rd race, had to make a pit stop and finished a lap down, which affected, of course, his grid positions for the rest of the weekend with the reverse grids being used. He did take a podium in race 4. So the 1 minute board is held aloft by the marshal on the left of your screen. The grid is cleared, and we're almost ready for the rolling start. On board with David Jenkins. Driver's eye view for the man strapped in. You can see the hefty metal roll cage protecting the driver in his cab should the worst happen, as it did unfortunately in 2022. Ricky Collins here at Thruxton, he ended up upside down at Noble. Told his family, giving him strict orders not to do so again. He got caught out on wet grass and slid off on that occasion, hit the barriers and rolled. Just moments after Tom O'Rourke had also had a big accident. Can anyone stop Flying Ryan then? So he tries his march towards an incredible 8th consecutive title. Paul Rivets looking for 2 out of 2 in Division 2, looking to whittle down Adam Bint's points lead. Division 2, a slightly smaller grid than in previous years. That's because quite a few runners have moved up to Division 1. including Jock Borthwick, who we hope to see back out before the end of the season. We know he's keeping an eye on things today. Get well soon, Jock. A few comments coming in. Darren Campbell says, shout out to the Bowlers racing team. That's the number 14. Mr. Smart Tech says, come on team Bint. Daddy Mazzy says, come on 86 Tom O'Rourke.
You can take from it. I mean, you're so concentrated on getting some heat in the tyres and the brakes, but it's just
on board with number 7, Stuart Oliver, complete with his mascot in the cab there.
To be honest, I don't know. I mean, they're not the most aerodynamic. Going to get run over. Not the most aerodynamic of things. I think the getting a toe off someone's really important.
92 there, Simon Faulkner, the Brooklands Plants Iveco. Craig Evans, desperate for his first class win in Division 2. He came within half a lap of his first class win at Brands Hatch, but then ran wide at Paddock Bend through the gravel and lost out. Hannah Fulcher says, come on, Paul. I assume that means Paul Rivette. A member of the Fulcher family used to race in Division 2 a few years ago, I remember. Looking back from Paul Rivette, this will be an interesting way to view the Division 2 battle. There's Bint, Evans and Powell. I suspect the class win will go to one of those four. Maybe a slightly smaller field in Division 2 this season, but certainly no less close in the championship. Here we go. Race 2 of the weekend for the 2023 British Truck Racing Championship here at Convoy on the Plain, here at Thruxton. It's a 2x2 convoy at the moment. Ryan Smith on the left in the bonneted Daimler Freightliner. Alongside him, David Jenkins in the MAN, and the Volvo of Stuart Oliver, Michael Oliver's MAN. Look out for Stephen Powell, scored his first ever Division 1 win here at Thruxton last season, the man from Kent. Could we see a first win this weekend for Bradley Smith? Don't forget the top 8s for this race will be reversed for one of the grids for tomorrow's races. Pace truck pulling off into pit lane. David Jenkins just setting himself up there on the outside line. Wait for the power to be unleashed as the red lights go out, which they do now. Michael Oliver was a little bit eager there on the outside. Here we go, down towards Allard. Ryan Smith makes a great start. Stuart Oliver trying to muscle his way through on the inside of David Jenkins into second place. Bradley Smith's got a good run on the inside as well. David Jenkins gets a couple of wheels on the grass. They're all away okay through Allard for the first time up towards the complex. Bradley Smith trying to make a move on Michael Oliver. Ryan Smith a little bit of a lock-up, but he's got the lead ahead of Stuart Oliver, the two bonneted trucks. John Bowler's got away well too on the tail of Stephen Powell. Looks like everybody gets through the complex okay for the first time. Ricky Collett side by side with Tom O'Rourke. They had a bit of a bump in race 1 as well, I remember, and Simon Faulkner was involved there as well as they head out towards the back of the circuit. For the first time, it's Ryan Smith who has got the lead in the number 1 truck, clear of Stuart Oliver, David Jenkins, Michael Oliver. Stephen Powell's got away well. He's up to 5th ahead of Bradley Smith. Good move by him at the complex. Then it's Craig Reed in the Iveco, John Bowler in the 14, then the 92 of Faulkner, who's leading Division 2. It's Paul Rivette ahead of Adam Bint, John Powell and Craig Evans. We're with the 22 truck as John Powell tries to make a move on the back of the circuit on Adam Bint, side by side, Michael Oliver and Stephen Powell. We said Stephen was a bit quiet earlier on. He bangs wheels with Michael Oliver. He's much more fired up this time. Here comes the number 3, the HGV Direct sponsored truck down the inside. Trying to take 4th place away from Michael Oliver into the chicane. One of them's going to have to yield. You won't fit side by side through there. And Powell's through up into 4th position. Bradley Smith just behind them. But it's a familiar face up front. Ryan Smith will lead as they complete the opening lap. He leads by 1 3/4 seconds over Stuart Oliver. David Jenkins in 3rd place. They rumble and roar their way through into the second lap of this second race of the weekend for the British Truck Racing Championship here at Convoy on the Plain. Bradley Smith 6th, ahead of Craig Reed. John Bowler 8th. Here comes Ricky Collins having a look at Tom O'Rourke. They've got the Division 2 pack behind them. There's Jim Bennett, the Seddon Atkinson, the 73-year-old. At the back of the field, Neil Yates on his debut. There is the number 33, just taking it easy at the back of the field, just learning the truck, learning the circuit, learning the sports. Paul Rivett, the multiple Renault Clio champion, used to support the British Touring Car Championship. Chasing now Ricky Collins, who's lost out to Tom O'Rourke. Good fight going on between that pairing. That's for 10th position. Paul Rivett's got to be mindful that Adam Bint is right there behind him. He was only 3rd in Division 2, Adam, in the first race. He wants improvement here, the championship leader. He's a former Division 2 champion a few years ago. There are the leaders, Ryan Smith, Stuart Oliver. 17 championships between those two in the UK. Stuart Oliver, an ex-European champion too. The Daimler Freightliner, that extraordinary Dayglow livery. You wouldn't miss that on the motorway, would you? Stuart Oliver's bonneted Volvo, neither. Well, bonneted trucks seem to be very much a rarity on the UK's haulage fleets. On board with David Jenkins, chasing Stuart Oliver for 2nd place. 11.5 minutes of the race to go. Smith leads by 2.5 seconds. Stephen Powell giving chase up there in 4th. A better run from him this time. Michael Oliver trying to hold off Bradley Smith and Craig Reed. Next in the order, John Bowler. And behind him is Simon Fulton, improving all the time in only his 2nd full season of truck racing. Started racing in one of the Reed team's Ivecos. And speaking of Reed, Craig Reed clips the back of Bradley Smith. That's damaged the front bumper. You can see the corner missing there from Craig Reed's truck. He's kept it going though. Just clipped the back of Bradley Smith. That's damaged the wheel arch on his truck as well. First real bit of contact we've seen in this race. Division 2 still led by Rivett ahead of Adam Bint and John Powell. Not so much sliding this time with the drier conditions. Here comes Craig Reed trying again for 6th position as they head towards Church Corner. But again, Bradley Smith swings across and holds him off. Reed will try again, I'm sure, at the chicane. Still Ryan Smith with the lead. They're closing up a little on Michael Oliver in the 12. The Reed Freight Iveco, the Ferns Group MAN. Here comes Craig Reed to the inside. He won't get alongside though. Behind them it's John Bowler heading Simon Faulkner. There's a Division 2 battle, still 4 of them together. And they're not far behind Ricky Collins in the 95. On board with Rivett through the chicane. See how narrow it is from that angle. And that's when your camera isn't filled, your mirrors aren't filled by that big black Volvo of Adam Bint. Very menacing looking truck, that one. It used to be blue and white, but the new paint job, very effective. Another famous driver raced all in black in America. He was known as the Intimidator, the late great Dale Earnhardt. See Dale Gent in the pickup truck championship racing tribute colours to Dale Earnhardt as well. Still putting Rivett under pressure. John Powell 3rd in the DAF. Craig Evans 4th in Division 2. Jim Bennett 5th. Neil Yates is 6th. Ryan Smith leading by just over 2 seconds. In fact, Stuart Oliver closed in very slightly on that last lap, and Adam Bint is closing right up on Paul Rivett now. He's on his bumper there as they head out of Goodwood Corner towards Village and Church. Just under 9 minutes of this race to go. Towards the chicane. Adam Bint tries to get alongside, but he'll be on the outside for the first element of the Napa MAN. Bint racing Volvo, the first truck to run on HVO fuel in this championship last season. Now been adopted by everyone. It's green cleaner alternative to regular diesel. Side by side again there between the 46 and the 68, Bradley Smith and Craig Reed. And they're closing on Michael Oliver, the number 12. No change between the leaders, still Smith, Stuart Oliver, Jenkins and Stephen Powell. 2.1 seconds is now the lead gap, so slowly but surely Stuart Oliver is whittling down Ryan Smith's lead. Maybe Smith hasn't changed the setup enough for the drier conditions, who knows. Can Ryan hang on in front? He's not pulling away at his usual rate. 2.1 seconds is the gap. There's no gap at all virtually between these two. Bradley Smith being hounded by Craig Reed. He knows he's got to uphold family honour with brother Simon absent. Hopefully we'll see Simon back for the next round. Here they come down towards Church again. Then up Woodham Hill towards the chicane. John Bowler closing up as well, the number 14 MAN. His last lap time was identical to that of Reed. If anything, Michael Oliver's last lap was a second or so slower, so no wonder these four have closed up. It's two groups of four effectively in front of the field. We'll see what the lead gap is this time through. It's back up to 2.5 seconds, so Smith pulls away by a few tenths. Here comes Ricky Collett, and he's really attacked Tom O'Rourke there. Get off, says the Scotsman, over the curb, and keeps the place. That was a bit optimistic there by Ricky Collett, just bouncing off the side of Tom O'Rourke. I thought the 86 was going to be sent into a spin there. That's allowed the Division 2 field to close up, still headed by Paul Rivett in the 22. Up to the complex once again for the 6th time. Still got 6 minutes of the race to go. Tom O'Rourke, who first entered truck racing as a sponsor through his business MV Commercial after attending Convoy in the Park at Donington a few years ago. Ended up sponsoring the British Championship for a couple of years and then bought a truck and decided to have a go himself. Paul Rivett pulls away a little bit there from Adam Bint in the battle for Division 2 honours. Powell and Craig Evans has dropped back a little bit as well, the number 10. The gap is 2.5 seconds between Ryan Smith and Stuart Oliver, whose leader has lapped Neil Yates. Expect to have a new name in the championship here at Thruxton this weekend. We'll hopefully see him out at subsequent rounds as well. Of course, the biggest truck racing festival of the year promises to be Convoy in the Park at Donington in mid-August. There's also the firework meeting at Brands Hatch, where we'll see the champions crowned. Neil Yates moves aside there, lets Oliver and Jenkins through. A couple of lengths in it between those two. David Jenkins following a slightly sideways Stuart Oliver. And yes, the gap has increased by a few tenths. It's 3.2 seconds now, so increased by nearly a second on that last lap between Smith and Oliver. David Jenkins right onto the tail of the number 7. Two of the most experienced drivers in the field, 11 titles between these two. Stephen Powell behind them is a former Division 2 champion. Towards Noble they go once again. Just under 4.5 minutes remaining in this second race of 5 this weekend at Convoy on the Plain for the British Truck Racing Championship. Stephen Powell, a better run than his 8th in race 1. Although 8th place in race 1 will give him pole position for race 3 coming up tomorrow. Top 8 in race 1 are reversed on the grid for race 3. And this race will set the grid for race 4 with the top 8 reversed, so it's currently John Bowler who is in position to take the pole in Division 1. Division 2 is flipped around as well, although it wouldn't surprise me if Neil Yates chooses to start from the back as a newcomer. Here comes Ryan Smith. Daimler Freightliner, if anything, sounding a little bit off song as it comes through there. But we haven't seen him pull away by any stretch from Stuart Oliver over the last couple of laps, only by a few tenths of a second, so possibly the Daimler Freightliner not at its 100% best here. He said he was having problems before the event. We heard from Flying Ryan after race 1. So no change in the order once again. Still this group fighting for 5th. Michael Oliver, Bradley Smith and Simon Reed. Through the exit of the complex. John Bowler passing there, lapping Neil Yates. Bowler in 8th place behind these three. So he stands to take pole position for race 4 of the weekend. Still David Jenkins trying his hardest to get up on level terms with Stuart Oliver. There's just over 2 minutes of the race to go now. Here he comes, the MAN, the man from Stafford, up alongside the man from Northumberland. Almost alongside him. Ryan Smith continues to lead down into the chicane. His last lap was only half a second off his personal best. Stuart Oliver leans David Jenkins wide there, holds the place. Good defensive driving by Stuart Oliver. Over the line they go. The gap was 3.9 seconds. Let's see what it is this time through. It's up to 4.65 seconds. So he's pulling away slowly now, Ryan Smith. This may be last lap. We might get one more out of it. It'll be close when they cross the line next time through. We'll wait and see. Stephen Powell still there in 4th, and still this battle going on for the lead in Division 2 between Paul Rivett and Adam Bint, with John Powell shadowing their every move. Craig Evans is closed back up again as well now. Through the chicane. Over the line they go. Rivett leads by less than half a second, with 1, maybe 2 laps to go. Adam Bint getting the tighter line there through Allard. Past the pit lane exit up towards Green. And then into the complex. On the brakes, Adam Bint up the outside. Paul Rivett holds him off. Campbell. Cobb. And Seagrave. Oh, there's been some contact. Ricky Collett's got some damage. The side panel hanging off the 95. I wonder if that's with Tom O'Rourke again, as Neil Yates frantically trying to get out of the way there as his Division 2 rivals lap him. He was out onto the grass. See that bodywork hanging off the side of Ricky Collins' truck. Now, if that gets any worse, although it may well be that we're on the last lap now, he may have got the black and orange flag and had to come into the pits to remove that bodywork. Meantime, here comes Ryan Smith. There's 20 seconds on the clock as he comes into the chicane. Now, will we get one more lap, or are we going to see the checkered flag this time? We'll have to see as he comes up to the line here. Stuart Oliver still holding back Jenkins, and Stephen Powell's catching them for 2nd place. No, just a few seconds before the clock counted to 0, so we will do one more lap. One more lap for Ryan Smith to lead. His lead's up to 5.3 seconds now. Can Stephen Powell get himself onto the podium? He's yet to win this year, the number 3. Best result he's had this year, a pair of 3rd places at Pembrey. And still they battle in Division 2. Paul Rivett's keeping his MAN in the lead. Over Adam Bint, there's a green flag signal showing there. There was a green light flashing. Has somebody stopped at the chicane? If there's a green showing, that means there's a yellow further round at the chicane. Let's just have a look at the timing screen. Has somebody come to a stop? No, I don't think so. There go the Division 2 pack. Still chasing O'Rourke and Collett at the back of Division 1. It's going to be a win for Ryan Smith for the 2nd time this weekend here at Convoy in the Park. David Jenkins up on the curb there. He's going to have one last effort to try and pass Stuart Oliver for 2nd place. We're on board with David Jenkins. He comes up Woodham Hill, down towards the chicane for the last time. Stuart Oliver, just see him through the side window on the right of your screen there as they head into the chicane. Ryan Smith, meanwhile, is coming in to take the victory. Checkered flag waves for Ryan Smith. There he is. And who's going to be 2nd? Stuart Oliver. Is he going to hang on? David Jenkins, one last blast up the inside, but Oliver hangs on. Stephen Powell will take 4th place. Less than half a second in it there. In fact, just over 1 second covered those three. Michael Oliver holds on for fifth ahead of Bradley Smith and Craig Reed. And John Bowler eighth, equaling his best ever result in Division 1. Meanwhile, Division 2, here they come. It looks like it is going to be Paul Rivette. He's led every lap virtually in Division 2 so far today. He takes his second class win. Adam Bint second ahead of John Powell and Craig Evans. Fifth place will go to Jim Bennett, and a lap down Neil Yates will be sixth. But it is Ryan Smith who takes the win. The truck sounding a bit off song there, but he wins by 6 seconds. Just ahead of Stuart Oliver, who was kept busy all the way through that race by David Jenkins. Well done, Paul Rivette, taking his second win in Division 2 to close the gap on Adam Bint in the points race. 10 laps completed there in that race number 2 of the weekend, won by Ryan Smith by 6 seconds ahead of Stuart Oliver, just ahead of David Jenkins and Stephen Powell. Then it got back to Michael Oliver in 5th ahead of Bradley Smith and Craig Reed. They were battling all race long. John Bowler 8th ahead of Simon Faulkner, and then Tom O'Rourke and the rather battered Ricky Collins. 12th place for Paul Rivette. He wins Division 2 ahead of Adam Bint, John Powell, then Craig Evans, Jim Bennett and Neil Yates. Ryan Smith with fastest lap of the race in Division 1. We'll await confirmation of who was quickest lap in Division 2 when the results come in.